So I finally managed to complete Oppenheimer. Not in the one day. People did do it in the one day. That must have been such a mind bender. Let's go with that rather than the other word I was going to use. But yeah, to see both those films in one day must have absolutely melted people's brains. So I'm really glad I didn't do them in one day. Obviously I did Barbie a couple of weeks ago and I absolutely loved it, and then finally got around to seeing Oppenheimer this evening or this afternoon. Weirdly, totally should have worn these dungarees when I went to see Barbie, but didn't. Wore them for the other half of Barbenheimer instead. Oof, it's a long old film. I don't know if it's because I now know for sure that I have ADHD, but I think I seem to find sitting still for long periods of time harder than I used to. And I don't know if it's because I used to work harder at keeping a lid on those traits, because, you know, the logical sort of well-behaved part of my brain tells me that you have to sit still in the cinema, but I really did struggle. It's not that I wasn't interested, I very much was, but I was sat second to back row in the premiere seats, and thankfully there was nobody behind or around me, because I went at like a 3:40 showing. So there's people down the front of premiere and some people in standard. Fools. Who sits in standard when you could just sneak into premiere? Anyway, I digress. So yeah, there was nobody around me. At one point, about 2 hours in, I did have to stand up, and then I walked right to the back row and just sort of stood for a bit, did some lunges, and then went back to my seat. And I fidgeted a lot. I've 2 minutes in, I haven't spoken about the film yet. I did enjoy it, I will say that. When it comes to Christopher Nolan's work, the ones that I love, I really love. And I haven't seen it for donkey's years, but I know I absolutely loved Memento, and it blew my mind when I saw it for the first time. And I remember thinking back then, this guy is something special, and I was right. And I love his Batman films, like, so much. Particularly The Dark Knight, but all three of them, I just think they're magnificent. And I love Inception. I don't like Interstellar. I've only seen it once. I think I must have missed something, because loads of people absolutely love it and cry their eyes out, and I just completely left me cold. So I think maybe I didn't get it, wasn't in the right headspace, I don't know. I didn't see it in the cinema, I will say that. And then Tenet, a couple of years ago, I did really enjoy. I definitely think the experience was coloured by the fact that it was like, I'm back in the cinema, because I think Tenet was 2020, wasn't it? In between lockdowns, maybe, or was it 2021? I genuinely can't remember. But it was so exciting to be in a cinema and watch a big action film. So yeah, when he's good, he's exceptional. And this is a really interesting film. It's incredibly well made. It's very stylish. It has a ludicrous cast. Although I've just realised no Michael Caine, which makes me a tiny bit sad. I know Michael Caine's retired now, but he's in every other Christopher Nolan film. Is this the first one he's not in? Oh, that's made me sad. I mean, he's still here, he's still alive, he's just always in Christopher Nolan. Although, to be fair, he's not in Memento. It's been like, since he put him in the first one, he's kept... Anyway, I'm waffling. Yeah, like, there is so much about it that's great. It doesn't tell you where you are in the world or what time of the history it is, which is obviously a conscious choice not to sort of consider that the audience are stupid and need to be told. And occasionally there's references made to, like, it's 1939 or it's 19 this, or, but it doesn't do that thing of going like 1939 on the screen. And it is quite fragmented, which is deliberate, obviously a deliberate choice, where you are flicking backwards and forwards through a certain timeline in J. Robert Oppenheimer's life. So you kind of see, you know, his early days of study, you see when he was at Cambridge, and then different parts of the world. And so it's sometimes hard to pin down like whereabouts in his life you are. And it doesn't go, we're not talking like flashback to childhood or anything. It's all sort of the same rough period of history. And then obviously the main bulk of the film focuses on his work on the Manhattan Project and building the atomic bomb, which is obviously what he's very, very famous for. The last hour and a half, so sort of half, like, don't get me wrong, none of it was boring. It was interesting. At times I was a little bit like, I'm not entirely sure where we're at. Not that I didn't get it, I'm not thick, but just I was a bit like trying to keep up who everybody was. If I have any negative things to say about Christopher Nolan, I don't think he does very well with female characters. Thinking about it, like in this, the only two prominent female characters are played by Florence Pugh and Emily Blunt. Like, two of the best we have in this country. They are, I love them both, like big time. Florence Pugh plays somebody that Oppenheimer has a bit of a dalliance with. She's clearly mentally unstable, but she's really underdeveloped. She's just there. You do get to see her naked a couple of times, and like, fair play to her, she looks amazing, and it shouldn't be a thing. But yeah, I didn't really know. She's obviously important to Oppenheimer's life and his story, but you don't really know anything about her. And then his wife, Kitty, is played by Emily Blunt. And again, she's great, but mainly she's just drunk and angry a lot of the time. And again, she's a bit one-dimensional. She's a bit like, that's all she is. She's drunk and she's angry and she's shouting, and she's obviously fiercely loyal to him and all that sort of stuff. They obviously had quite a difficult relationship, but they did love each other. But yeah, she's a bit... So, and then I started thinking like about other female characters, and I was thinking about the Batman films and the female characters there, and then I was thinking about, and I just, yeah, maybe he's better with male actors, which is fine, because like, oh man, this cast, and I'm gonna forget people. Cillian Murphy plays J. Robert Oppenheimer. Obviously Christopher Nolan worked with him before in the Batman films. He played I want to say Dr. Jonathan Crane, Scarecrow. Is he in all three? He's definitely in Batman Begins, and he's definitely in The Dark Knight Rises. Can't remember if he pops up in the middle one, possibly. And then he was in Inception as well, and he has the best cheekbones in the world, and he's a beautiful, beautiful man and a very talented actor. So he's the central performance. Round him, Christ on a bike, you've got like, people just kept popping up. Robert Downey Jr.'s in it, Rami Malek's in it, Matt Damon, David Krumholtz, Josh Hartnett. Like, where's Josh Hartnett been? He was great, although he still looks like exactly the same. Who else? Oh man, just like so many great actors. Tony Goldwyn, did I mention him? He's great. Loads of other people I recognise that I'm going to have to look up, because my stupid brain no longer recalls people's names as well as it used to. But like, even if someone's in it for a scene or two, they're great. And then, you know, the people who are in it more are also great. It's really good. Like, and it's written and directed by Christopher Nolan. He's quite a talented guy, really. It flicks between colour and black and white, which I quite liked as well. Like I say, it's really stylish. It was shot for IMAX screens, and I bet it looked absolutely incredible on them. The last thing I wanted to comment on is the sound design, which I know sounds really nerdy, and I'm not pretending I know loads about it, but I do know from talking to a friend of mine who has worked in film, that there is, on The Dark Knight, on the second Batman film, there is like a high-pitched note that's used a lot when the Joker's on screen, and it's basically a sound that's designed to make you uncomfortable, and it's almost undetectable, but just you can hear it without realising that you're hearing it, and what it's doing is just putting you on edge. And there's bits in Oppenheimer where the sound is so important. And I won't elaborate any further because I don't want to spoil it for anybody who hasn't seen it yet. But like, hats off to the guy. It looks great. It's interesting. The performances are great. It sounds amazing. It is enough to keep you hooked over 3 hours. It was a bit disjointed, and I know that was deliberate, but there was times when I was like, I don't know where we are in history at this point, and I'm a bit confused. But again, that's not a reflection on the film, it's just a reflection on a very tired 41-year-old woman. So yeah, Oppenheimer, completed it, mate. Job done. I'm done. Yeah, great. Glad I saw it. Now need to do non-sitting down, although I'm in the car and I have to drive home. But other than that, I'm going to do some standing. Because it's still nice and early in the evening. I'm glad I went early on, because if it was like 11 o'clock at night, I'd be absolutely ruined. Okay, that's it for now. Katie out.